So today I'm going to be giving you my initial review of the Galaxy XR headset. And honestly, it is very impressive, but you might be surprised because I do have some concerns with it. And we need to talk about that in this initial review. So let's get right into it. So you might expect me as a Android YouTuber, as a Android shill, you might just say Samsung is gonna pay me here and I'm just gonna give a mountain of praise to Samsung. And that is actually further from the truth if you watch this entire video. You're gonna find out very quick that I don't think everyone should be buying this VR headset. In fact, I truly believe the MetaQuest is actually the best VR headset for most people. The MetaQuest 3 for $500 is going to be the value pick. It's going to be the headset that most people should consider buying if they're looking to dabble into VR. But this headset is still very impressive for what it is, because a lot of us expected Samsung to drop this for like $2,800 or $2,500. When Apple releases a Vision Pro for $3,500, we expected Samsung to maybe come in a little bit under that. But at $1,800, releasing this at almost half the price of the Vision Pro, there is definitely a lot of things that Samsung did right here. A $3,500 Apple Vision Pro is insane, and realistically, outside of using it as like a virtual desktop, there's not going to be a lot of things that people are going to do with it. Most people I know that bought a Vision Pro, it's sitting on their shelf or they occasionally use it to watch a movie or two, and that's about it. So for $3,500, it's just unrealistic for almost anyone, and outside of those people who use their Macs every day, who buy $5,000 MacBooks, yeah, those people who are all in the Apple ecosystem, they should buy a Vision Pro. And not only that, but it's going to be a little more comfortable than it was with the new Band, so there is a very niche group that should check out the Vision Pro. But $3,500 is way too much for pretty much everyone. But even as an Android YouTuber, I have to say, $1,800. We might praise them for being at nearly half the price of Apple, but $1,800 is still too much for most people. So I don't think Samsung necessarily overpriced this headset, but I still don't think they're giving people what they really need on a daily basis. Like, one of the best things about the MetaQuest 3 is the fact that you could have multiple profiles on it, so if you have a family, you could share the headset. But on this Galaxy XR, there are some negative things. You can only have one profile on it, at least as of today, so that means that if you get your headset and you set up your Twitter account or your X account, well, you just have to deal with it being your X account and sharing it with your family, I guess, because it's only going to allow you to use the headset, or if you give it to your spouse or someone else you trust, sure, they could use the headset, and yeah, the headset will adjust to that person, but then they're going to have access to your information. Another problem I have with this Galaxy XR headset, it's going to be with third-party accessories and comfort, because one thing I love about the MetaQuest 3, there's a million third-party accessories you could buy for $20 or $40, or maybe you get the MetaQuest Elite strap. There's so many different options out there, and you could find a comfort level that you like. And you can also adjust the front of the MetaQuest to really get it to fit your face properly. But this is very fixed. So the Galaxy XR here, it's very fixed as far as how it's positioned, so you just have to move it up or down on your face, and then you just tighten this on the back here. And that's how it fits on people, and sadly, I do think that even though it's going to be much more comfortable and lighter than a lot of headsets out there, the fact that we don't have an extra strap over your head, a lot of VR users, they don't care how it looks on marketing materials, they actually want it to be comfortable. And sadly, the fact that they didn't add a strap for the top of your head, it just means that comfort wasn't actually their focus. So we do need to talk about comfort, because that is one of the most important things that you need to look for in a virtual reality headset. And I have to be brutally honest, this headset is not all that comfortable, at least as of now. Remember, this is my first impressions, and I'm still trying to find the right fit for me. But I was so confused when I first got this headset because I thought it was supposed to come with 3 separate adapters for the front part of the headset, the part that rests on your forehead, and instead I only received 2, and I thought that was really odd. I received a slim one, and it came with a cushion attached, and then the thicker one, and it was really confusing because it wasn't even thicker, and you're supposed to actually remove it and actually bring it to whichever adapter you want. So it's supposed to have 3 pieces, the slim, the thicker one, and this cushion. But again, because the cushion is already attached, I was confused and thought I was missing something. And I know a lot of people on Reddit are even talking about that. And should you have only the cushion attached, or should you have it attached with the slim piece? Is it bad, or what's the normal thing? How do most people get a comfortable fit? I think a lot of people are just confused by that. And for that reason, I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. I tried it without any attachments at all, and it was actually more comfortable for me. My eyes were getting a little bit closer to the lenses, and I was enjoying the experience, but it did start to feel a little uncomfortable towards the top of my head after a little bit of usage. And whenever you add the thicker little spacer or the slim one, it's supposed to really push your head back a little bit so that your eyes don't get so close to the lenses. And it just depends on what size head you have, I guess. But either way, I know comfort is going to be subjective. It depends on the person. But I do think this is more comfortable than the MetaQuest 3, at least out of the box. But whenever you factor in third-party accessories, of course, this will not be anywhere close to as comfortable as the MetaQuest 3. And to be honest, I don't think it's as comfortable as the Vision Pro, even though it's half the weight, because it doesn't have a band that goes over the top of your head. They might release some type of third-party accessory to help with that, and if they do, I think the comfort will be much improved. But for now, I'm not liking it, and I hope they eventually release something else for your forehead or something else to make it a little more comfortable. Now this Galaxy XR, because it's a little more powerful and they wanted to keep the weight down, they do have the battery pack that you actually keep on the outside of the headset. And personally, I actually like that because it does allow me to use the headset, and I could actually plug in the battery because it has a little bit of a cord. I could plug it in a little bit lower in my pocket, so then I could focus on gaming and focus on what I'm doing without having a cord on my head. So I do actually like that setup, and it does keep the headset a little bit lighter. And I will say this headset, it actually does have a lot more use cases than a MetaQuest, because this is going to be better for productivity. You see, there are much better screens here than you find in the MetaQuest 3, and I would say the screens are going to be very similar to something like the Apple Vision Pro, but obviously you're getting them at a much cheaper price point, and they are going to be better than the MetaQuest, because when you get AMOLED or when you get OLED, those displays are going to make a world of a difference. The colors are just going to pop more on the screen, and overall the quality is just very impressive. And when we look at what we can watch on this headset, we do have a native NBA app, a native MLB app. We also have other applications like HBO Max, and we also have Paramount Plus. Now, some of those apps are going to be running from Android, but either way, the quality is still very good, and we do get access to easy streaming, and that is so important with something like this. So we have a lot of different app options, whether it's from Android or whether it's just natively built for this headset. And that's why this headset is a little bit special compared to something like the MetaQuest, because you get these displays that you're just not going to get. Not to mention, this does have a better Snapdragon processor. It is an improved processor over what we see in the MetaQuest 3. So we do get a little bit of extra power with this headset, but also the displays, that is really what you're paying extra money for. And the other thing is we get to run Android on this headset. So that means a lot of Android apps, and even apps you wouldn't expect. You can get the X app, of course, but there are a lot of other applications that are just normal Android apps that are built to work with this. Now, there are a few little stingy apps out there, like I know Meta doesn't want Facebook or Instagram to work because they want you to buy a MetaQuest instead. So they have withdrawn their apps to work with VR, but there are a ton of different Android apps that work on this headset. And not only that, I was surprised at how many games actually were ported. You could play Job Simulator. You could also play different things like Arizona Sunshine. So that is actually a VR zombie game, and I was surprised that they actually brought that over here. So whenever you look at the gaming library, no, we don't have like Assassin's Creed, or we don't have some of the very special MetaQuest games that we had, like the Batman game. Those aren't here yet. But we do have a decent amount of things, a decent amount of games, and even some Android games that we can control. And there are some things you could do as far as gaming that it's just impressive. If you actually get the virtual desktop app, and this is very important now because the virtual desktop app is very well known for the MetaQuest. You could actually buy it from the Google Play Store for like $25, and that will allow you to stream whatever's on your laptop straight to your headset. And whenever you do that, that means you could play games on your laptop and stream them here. So there are a lot of cool things that you could do here, and getting the extra display quality, it is going to mean a lot in the long run. Now, there are some other things you need to know. As far as working with your PC, sadly, it only seems to work with a Galaxy Book. It's really frustrating, really annoying, but I will say again, that virtual desktop will work just fine for those of you who want to use that instead. So overall, there are a lot of things that I love about this Galaxy XR headset. There are a lot of things that it has to bring to the table. The fact that it does run Android means that you can actually get it connected with your phone. The fact that it runs Android means you could have a lot of your apps that you have on your phone, the streaming services, the ease of opening up these apps. A lot of people, when they're talking about the Vision Pro, they act like they could do so much on it, but you can do productivity stuff here. You could do a lot of stuff that you could do on the Vision Pro here. You can open up multiple windows all around you and get immersed in VR. You could go back and forth between several things, and I wish I could show you some of it, because if you're screen recording, sadly, it won't let you screen record if you like have an NBA game on, for example, for copyright reasons, I guess, even though I would just turn down the volume. So I don't really get that, but either way, I can't show you everything, but what I will say is that whenever you do have multiple windows open, and whenever you're doing that multitasking, it's great. The hand tracking is great. You could also actually use your vision actually to select things, and you just move around with your vision to select, and you just tap with your finger if you wanted to do that. So it actually works pretty well. Now, you can't scroll things right now with your finger. If you open up app and open up X and you try to scroll, it's not going to work just yet. But things like that can come over time with software updates. The other thing that's not there just yet is the gaming library. Whenever you go to MetaQuest, you can actually use the virtual desktop app. You can get productive, it's just on lower resolution screens without AMOLED or without OLED. But the thing that makes the MetaQuest so special is the fact that it has a full gaming library. You could still access the NBA app there. You could still access things through the web browser even if there's not a native app, and they just have a much larger gaming library and a much larger fitness library. So if you're someone who's just using your headset off and on, the MetaQuest is going to be a better option. If you're wanting to do a little bit of gaming, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, you're going between $500 and $1,800. I think the MetaQuest 3 is going to be a better value for people getting into VR. Now, for those of you who are really into VR, or maybe you're really into Android, or maybe you're into both, I understand why you might want to get the Galaxy headset. It does come with a lot of extras right now, like a year of NBA League Pass. There are a lot of things they're throwing in for free right now. And I also realize just the great benefit of being able to have Android on your headset. Even if you're someone out there who has something you like to read, a reading app, then you might want to use this, and that's pretty cool. But we have to recognize that this Galaxy VR headset, it's probably a step below the Vision Pro a little bit with productivity, but if you're not using a Mac, if you use Windows, who cares about that? Because you're still going to be able to use this, and this will be better for using Windows anyway. And it's going to be really, really close as far as productivity in the end. But when it comes to gaming, this has way more potential than the Vision Pro as far as gaming. It has the most potential, I would say, out of any headset, because Android XR, that means that it's an operating system built not just for Samsung, but for any maker of a headset that wants to run Android. Google would be happy to put the Play Store on it if it means they make more money. So we are probably going to see more headsets, and the more headsets we see, the more game makers are going to make games games for this operating system. And because we have controller support, naturally, we are going to be able to have a full gaming library, I hope. Eventually, right now it's not there. Right now, the MetaQuest is still the more complete product, and for $500, it's a steal. But this has more potential because this could be the best headset for gaming, and it could be the best headset for productivity outside of the Vision Pro. It's also going to be way lighter and half the price, making it a far better value. So unless you're some MacBook user that spends like $5,000 on your Mac and you're really into all your nerdy stuff, you're coding 24/7 on your MacBook or something, I don't even know. Because at the end of the day, there's barely anyone that should buy a Vision Pro, because if you're spending $5,000 on your MacBook, you probably spent $5,000 on your monitor, and that would just be way more comfortable than using a $3,500 Vision Pro. So I'm not really sure who the audience is. Because the price is so high, it is a lot worse to use because you could just use something in real life that costs that much, and it's going to be a better experience. So I don't think it's a really good value, the Vision Pro. This Galaxy XR headset, it's probably not the best value today, but it could be in the future if they expand their gaming library and their fitness library. They already have a lot of apps that are available today, and a lot of Android apps you could play today, and even some VR games and a ton of streaming apps, and in some ways they actually have more than the Vision Pro because they have that YouTube app and they have that Netflix app, and they look very, very good. But at the same time, it's not quite as complete as something like the MetaQuest. The MetaQuest has those social interactions built in with their little worlds they have. They have other things that they've been working on for a very long time, and gaming has been a staple on that headset for years. So whenever I think about that, the third-party accessory support, a little bit more comfort in those comfort options, if I factor all that in, most people would probably rather have a headset with a little bit of plastic on the front if it means that they could actually have more than one person use it. They have multiple user profiles. Maybe a family decides to use it for fitness together. So at the end of the day, I would say the MetaQuest is a little more complete, and this is still very new. So I'm very excited about it. But long term, I wish they would have made better accessory support. I think it's going to be a comfortable headset, but not quite as comfortable as those really nice head straps you would buy for those third-party options, like the MetaQuest third-party options that you'll put on that headset. I just don't think this is there yet. So I do think it's a good headset with a lot of potential. It has a lot of potential to be the best for productivity. And today it's the best value for productivity because it looks really good. And as far as the future, in the future it could be the best headset overall because it might be really good for gaming and fitness. And I have tempered expectations. The battery life is okay, around 2 hours, so there's some pros, there's some cons, but I'm not going to be an Android shill or a Samsung shill and say this is just the best thing since sliced bread, because it's really good, but it's not perfect. Some of you hardcore PC VR users might be able to use it in some powerful way. But for me, this is my first impressions. I love it. It has a lot of potential. This is my ramblings and my first impressions. Hopefully you like this video. Please give me a like and give me a sub. That would mean a ton to my channel. You could also check out the links in the description because I did pay my own money for this headset, but if you want to support me in my endeavors, feel free to use those links, those affiliate links. That would mean a lot. Thank you again, I really appreciate it. I will be covering this XR headset a little bit more in the future with a full review, and I will talk off and on about VR. I mainly talk Android phones and tablets, but feel free to follow along for the ride if you would like to subscribe. So thank you so much for your support, and no matter what you're going through in life, I hope you have a tremendous day, and I hope you have an amazing week.